So we are going to discuss the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. What does Gita mean? Song. So Sanskrit is a free verse language. Therefore it's very easy to compose any kind of text, any kind of poem, any kind of song in this language. Even if you change the order of the words, the meaning does not change. So most of the religious texts are in the form of lyrical compositions having different meters known as chandas. So the Bhagavad Gita is the text of primary importance if one is practicing the Hindu way of life or practicing yoga as well. In fact, this text summarizes the practice of different types and forms of yoga. Yes, so if you are studying Gita, we know how to continue to be in practice of yoga in day-to-day life, apart from the mat, apart from the hall. Now, each religion has a text of importance. Yes, we have the Bible for Christianity, we have the Quran for Islam. Now, when it came to the Hindu way of life, there were so many texts. Which to decide? That this is the text of primary importance, because everything held value, equal value almost. So there were two criteria set to decide which text should be the text of primary importance. The first criteria was the text must be relevant in present times. No matter when it has been written or composed, it must be relevant in present times. And second, it must be practical text, meaning the text must be easy to adapt and apply in day-to-day life. So, the Bhagavad Gita is a text to be lived and practiced, not a text only to be studied. Yes, the Bhagavad Gita has a dialogue between a teacher and a student. So this text is not a monologue. What is the style of this text? It's a dialogue. It's in dialectic form. It's a conversation. The background of this text is the war of Mahabharata, one of the greatest civil wars that broke in this country. So the Bhagavad Gita has the teachings of this war. The teachings of the war have been collected, gathered and expressed in the Bhagavad Gita. This text is of primary importance because it answers the fundamental questions that arise in the human mind. Questions like, what is God? What is karma? Is there rebirth? How can one realize the God? What is the structured path of doing so? What is the role of Kala or time? What exactly is time? And how can I attain liberation or moksha? And what is moksha? So don't you think these questions arise in our mind too in the present time? Even if the text has been written in Dwapar Yuga, it's been composed then, we still have these questions. What is life? What is death? Is there rebirth, after birth? What happens after death? And so on. So the one who studies these texts understands the answers to these fundamental questions. And what is the nature of this text? Is it a text that says you study and you become a monk? Is it that text? No. It in fact encourages you to correctly understand the situation you are in and come out of that conflict or resolve that conflict and manage the resources wherever you are, in whichever situation you are. We have two kinds of texts usually. One is known as the pravritti texts and the other are known as nivritti texts. What is pravritti? The one which compels us to act, encourages us to respond in a correct way. And there is also nivritti text, one which asks us to leave everything aside, asks us to leave everything or let go of everything. So what is the nature of the Bhagwad Gita? For the monk, it is like the nivritti text, but for a common person, how does this text act? It acts as a pravritti text. So this text says, do not leave or run away from wherever you are, whichever situation you are in, whatever are your duties, instant fight back. And how will you fight back? What is the weapon? The weapon is understanding and knowledge. Your enemy may not have it, but if you have it, you are going to win. On the basis of understanding and knowledge of what is happening. So if you have more knowledge, understanding and composure than your opponent, you are likely to respond better to that conflict. So this is a text which highly energizes us, which brings up the highest qualities that we have. And what does it say? You fulfill your duty or dharma. So we've seen the setting. The setting is Kurukshetra, the land of Kurus, a place near Delhi, Haryana. Yes, in this battlefield, this text has been composed. And who are the main characters of this text? Very good, yes. The teacher, known as Bhagwan Shri Krishna, the student, that is Arjuna, and Dhritarashtra, a king who is blinded by the love for his sons, that even if they are on the path of wrongdoing, he is still supporting them. And finally, Sanjaya, the yogi. Sanjaya means somebody who has conquered the indriyas or senses. Yes, Sanjaya, the yogi. These are the four principal characters of this text. This text is a dialogue primarily between Bhagwan Shri Krishna and Arjuna. So imagine a text which is compiled not in a cave of the Himalayas, but where? On the battleground. So the teacher is not sharing the knowledge with the student in a classroom, but on the battlefield, in the moment of life and death. So how is this text? It is applied immediately in conflict. Means what? It's a text to apply in emergency situation. Each time you find yourself in a situation of unforeseen crisis, in moments of crisis, this text is the best tool because it's applicable text. You directly need to apply it as a way of life. So these are the principal characters. And the knowledge is not being shared by some philosophy teacher. The knowledge is being shared by incarnation of the Lord himself, Bhagwan Shri Krishna. So we see in the Dwapar also, what happened is the king was also the spiritual teacher for the subjects. So if you were in a position of leadership, you are not only supposed to provide for your subjects or people of the kingdom in terms of material wealth, but you were also looked upon as the spiritual teacher. Somebody who would set an example, not of bondage, but of freedom, even while being in the highest luxury. So a king was supposed to be the spiritual teacher. So Bhagwan Shri Krishna is also a king. Yes, he himself is also a king and also a spiritual teacher to another king, Arjuna. So this text being discussed in the battlefield brings us the impressions of how we respond when we are in conflict. The true judgment of our nature, when is it? When we are in the state of conflict. So what is happening in this war? Arjuna, the greatest warrior, is fighting with whom? In battle with his own family. So which are the toughest battles we take up? With our loved ones, with our close ones. So this text further helps us understand how to ensure that you fulfill your duty in these battles. Before the war, it is discussed that once the war was declared, Arjuna, which is, you can say, the warrior on the side of right, on the path of Dharma, and his cousin Duryodhana. What is the name of the opponent? Duryodhana. Both of them went to Bhagwan Shri Krishna to seek his help. The moment they arrived there, they saw that Bhagwan Krishna was taking his afternoon siesta, rest. He was in the rest. So Duryodhana went and sat close to the head of the teacher, Bhagwan Shri Krishna, so that whenever he wakes up, the ears are closer. Whatever he says, Krishna will be able to hear it well. However, Arjuna went and sat close to the feet. It's a sign of being humble. So he went and he sat next to the feet of Krishna. So after Bhagwan Shri Krishna woke up from the siesta, afternoon nap, his eyes directly fell on whom first? Arjuna. And the moment Duryodhana watched this, he became fearful. Now what if Arjuna asks for his help and I don't get anything in return? So Krishna was smiling. He asked, what do you want? He asked Arjuna, yes, why have you come to see me? Duryodhana interrupts. He says, but I have come here first. Yes, I have come here first, so you should ask me what I want. And then we have this in the Indian culture also. The younger ones are given more importance and more opportunities to have first, to speak first and things like that. So Krishna smiles, says, you are the younger one amongst the both of you. Duryodhana was the younger one than Arjuna. He says, okay, you ask what you want first. So like a long list in one breath, he says, I want the best of your men, I want the best of your animals, I want the best of the army, I want this, I want this, I want this. In one breath. So that Arjuna does not have any opportunity to ask for anything. So Bhagwan Krishna smiles and says, okay, I give you my kingdom, my army, all my weapons, everybody to fight with you. He's very happy, Duryodhana. Then Bhagwan looks at Bhagwan looks at Arjuna. And Arjuna says, I just want you to be with me. Now Krishna further smiles. He says, see, I am not going to pick a single weapon in the war. I am not fighting this battle. I have nothing. Are you sure you just want me as I am? So Arjuna says, yes, I don't want anything from you. I just want your presence with me. That's all, as I fight my own battle. This is my own battle. I just need your presence as the source of strength for me. That's all. So that's how we see Bhagwan Krishna comes to be on the side of Arjuna. Both were given a choice. Duryodhana could have also asked for his presence, but instead he asked for the armor. So when the actual day of battle comes, Arjuna says, I don't want to fight. What happens? He says, I don't want to fight with my own brothers and my own family. He says, why have I been chosen to fight the greatest battle in the world? Why me? What does he say? Why me? So there is a chariot and he's sitting down helplessly. He says, I don't want to fight. He says, why me? Like we ask in certain situations that why am I going through this? He says, why me? So Bhagwan looks at him and says, Arjuna, you've had the best of life, the best of teachers, gurus. You've had the best of training, excellence everywhere. You've received the love from so many people. That time you did not ask, why me? You must understand that the more greatness you ask for, the more greatness of challenges also will meet you. So if you are the best warrior, can a best warrior fight a small war? Will that be a test of a best warrior? No. The test for the best warrior will be the most difficult war, not with an external enemy, but with an internal enemy, with the family. So he's still sitting down. He's not listening. Teacher goes on saying. Now the teacher here is Bhagwan Shri Krishna, and Bhagwan has found a teaching moment. The gurus and acharyas are always waiting for the teaching moment. They don't teach anything just like that. They wait for the teaching moment when the student is ready to start teaching. So Arjuna says, but I have done so many good deeds. I've done so many donations. Everything, all that I remember, my deeds have been so good throughout the life. I think I deserved better. I shouldn't have been in this position where I see my own brothers with whom I have played from childhood. When I see my own gurus from whom I have learned, I am fighting against them. So the weight on my heart is too much. So even after doing so many good deeds, I don't recall any bad deed, or we can say any Krishna karma or any kind of karma which has fructified in this way where I have to fight with them. So the teacher says, Arjuna, you've learned archery, you've learned business, politics, management, everything, economics, Ayurveda, astronomy, astrology. But have you learned about yourself? Now this is the first time Arjuna looks up at the teacher, perhaps. The moment he says, no, I decided to learn everything outside, but I don't know anything about myself. I did not understand. I did not learn anything about myself. So then Bhagwan Krishna starts talking to him, giving him the knowledge of the self, who he is, reminding him. So then Bhagwan tells him here, the first chapter is known as Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Vishada, dukkha, suffering. Arjuna's delusion, he's in the state of suffering. The first chapter itself of the Bhagwad Gita opens with Arjuna saying, I don't want to fight the war. So Bhagwan says, Arjuna, remember, people have made you the king for this day. They were not strong enough to make the choice that if there be a situation where they have to fight their own family, so they have chosen you as the king, have, praised you, have put you in best of the comfort and luxury so that you can make the most difficult choices. So even if it is your family in front of you, you have to fulfill your dharma as the king, your role as the king first. This is the exact day why this greatness was bestowed on you from everywhere. This is that moment, this is that choice that you have to make. So all that you were receiving for was this difficult choice. It was not out of the, love only for you. It was because the throne has to make the most difficult choices and sacrifices. So then Bhagavan Krishna further tells him that going ahead in this war, either you will win the war or you will lose the war. If you win the war, it is good, that's what is expected. If you lose the war, your people will know that the greatest king, greatest warrior fought the greatest battle. Somebody we called as the greatest warrior also fought the greatest battle, so you would be known in history throughout. Somebody who has fought with the family for the throne, to do justice to the Dharma. So Arjuna says, but in both the ways I am suffering. If I am winning also, I am losing the people with whom I want to enjoy this victory. And if I am losing, it will be such a disgrace for me. So Bhagavan says, fulfill your dharma or duty. If the problem is bigger, try to break it down. What you can do in the present situation. Are you a son here, a student here, or the king here? First decide that. Whom are you more answerable to? What is your dharma? If a person in law says, I will not punish my son even if he is doing wrong just because it's my son, will the justice prevail? No. So, the most important quality for a king is to ensure that the justice prevails. So, you do justice to your role first. In which situation, what role you are playing, it will help in taking a step towards conflict resolution. You may or may not be able to resolve the complete conflict. But what it will make you do, you will at least not pause or remain stagnant. You will move ahead in the correct direction. It will show you what is the path you should take. Not what you think, but what is your role in the situation. So when we find ourselves in such a situation, what we should look at? What is the role we are playing here? More than what we think is right or wrong. What is guiding us? What does that role expect from us in that situation? What is our relation to the person? So we see then further, slowly Arjuna sits up and gets up. So Bhagwan Shri Krishna says that, I will take care of the chariot. I will be the driver for you. Yes? Which means symbolically taking care of the chariot is taking control of Arjuna's mind. How? The horses are symbolic of our senses. If the horses of a chariot run in different directions, will the chariot progress well? No. So having understood that Arjuna's state of mind is not right at the moment, what does the teacher say? I will take care of the chariot for you. I will be your driver. Symbolically taking the control of Arjuna's mind or guiding him. So during the war we see the teacher was the charioteer for the student. Yes, this was the brief introduction to the Bhagwad Gita. It's an excellent text divided in 18 chapters. Once we start, studying it, we feel that Arjuna's questions are like our questions, our day-to-day questions. His problems are so same to our problems. So studying this text, it actually feels like we are in direct communion with the God. Nobody else is answering. It feels like the God himself is answering the questions that are in our mind. Bhagwad Gita is also known as Gita Upanishad. Upanishad means sitting close to the teacher and listening. So the Bhagwad Gita is a text which needs to be heard or Shravana. It is not a text that needs to be read. So a text, when you hear it, it starts working, acting on the mind differently. And the study of Gita actually ensures that your way of life changes. Gita talks about 3 important teachings of yoga. The Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Raj Yoga. All the 3 teachings of yoga have been given by Bhagwan Shri Krishna to Arjuna. So what is this text delivering? The practice of yoga. Why are we taking this text in the class today? Because it discusses the yogas. It discusses the what is Bhakti Yoga? Divided 666 chapters. It discusses all these 3 forms of yoga.